Hi, everyone. I'm Mr. Balf, and welcome to Crash Course U.S. History for Nearing. Wait, what? Copyright infringement? He can sue me for how much? Okay, then. Welcome to Mr. Balf's talking about theater and history and Inherit the Wind and stuff. In this video, I want to talk about Inherit the Wind, the show you get to see on Tuesday. This play is a theater and history geek's dream come true. It's based on a true story from American history. It's got plenty of drama and great writing. It basically shaped the courtroom movies that we have today. And most importantly, Inherit the Wind is one of those pieces of pop culture that not only tells us about a historical event, but gives us some historical perspective of the time it was created as well. So let's start with the play. Inherit the Wind is based on the true story of the Scopes monkey trial, which took place in Dayton, Tennessee, over the long, hot summer of 1925. In the play, Bertram Cates, a high school science teacher in the fictional town of Hillsborough, is accused of violating a Tennessee law that banned the teaching of Darwinism, or evolution, from Tennessee schools. Tennessee, at the time, favored creationism, or what we might call today intelligent design, more or less saying that the creation of the world lines up with what you get in the book of Genesis. 7 days of creation, for instance, or humans were never monkeys, and so on and so forth. Well, Cates looks to be in a bit of trouble until he receives word from the cynical Baltimore newspaper reporter E.K. Hornbeck that he will be defended by one of the most famous living lawyers of the day, Henry Drummond. Drummond is proudly, famously agnostic, and has a string of popular but controversial court cases to his name. On the other end of the courtroom, for the prosecution, sits Matthew Harrison Brady. Brady has run for president numerous times, never winning, but has been a long-time celebrated politician and public speaker. And so we have the setup for a battle of the ages, Drummond versus Brady. Two legal titans fighting it out over some of the most important ideas of both American government and morality. For instance, are we committing a crime if we violate an unjust law? Can we be punished for speaking what we think and believe to be true? Can you separate church and state? And if so, how far away do the two have to stand from each other? I won't get too much further into the play than this, but let me tell you, Inherit the Wind is considered a masterpiece of modern theater. The authors, Jerome Lawrence and Robert E. Lee, no, not that Robert E. Yes, that Robert E. Lee, debuted the play in 1955. Remember that year. It'll be important again soon. The play dramatizes real-life events that took place 30 years before. In 1925, John Scopes, a teacher in Dayton, Tennessee, taught Darwin's theories of evolution to his class. Now, Scopes was no fool. He knew he was going to be arrested for this. But he wanted to be. Scopes thought this Tennessee law was unjust, and so he violated it in order to gain national attention to the issue. And just like in the play, two of the greatest lawyers in the United States came to Dayton, one to defend him, the other to convict him. Scopes' defense attorney was a man named Clarence Darrow, and he was legendary. Most recently, he had kept two rich, thrill-seeking child murderers, Leopold and Loeb, from receiving the death penalty. Now, they both still got life in prison, but when the odds are stacked that high for the electric chair, life in prison is a victory more or less. His opponent was William Jennings Bryan. Bryan was one of those great politicians who aspired to be just a little more great. In his time, Bryan had been a newspaper editor, a congressman from Nebraska, Secretary of State, and had run for the presidency on the Democratic ticket in 1896, 1900, and in 1908, losing all three times. Bryan was well known as a populist, or a politician who believed the will of the people was paramount. He was the defender of farmers, a believer in free silver as our national currency, leading to his most famous speech called the Cross of Gold speech, and was also a firm believer in the absolute, literal truth of the Bible. This legal clash of the titans was observed by a Baltimore reporter named H. L. Mencken, who saw the trial as a farce and openly mocked the creationist side in his articles. The trial was also a bit of a circus, with reporters, a fairground being set up in the town, and even a few trained monkeys brought in for the amusement of the kids. Now, how much is true in the play compared to real life? Well, as in any fictionalization, the names have been changed to protect the innocent, and some of the events have been blown up or romanticized either to make a point or for entertainment value. One of the most amazing truths of the play, though, spoiler alert, is the fact that Darrow actually did call William Jennings Bryan up to the stand to testify on the truth of the Bible, and to poke holes in stories like Adam and Eve and the six-day creation of the world. No matter the outcome, these arguments furthered the cause of people who believed that evolution should be taught in Tennessee schools. Lastly, what happens to Brady actually happened to Bryan, but it happened 5 days after and not in the way it's portrayed on stage. But perhaps more important than the whole history versus Hollywood debate over the play is the fact that from this play, we can learn a lot about the time it was written. Remember how I told you to remember the year it came out? 1955? The reason I told you that was 1955 was at the height of the Red Scare in America, a time where people were terrified that there was a secret communist plot to take over the country. A lot of people were being accused of communism, whether they were innocent or guilty, and the threat of being outed as a communist, or the threat of being accused, could ruin your marriage, your career, or, if you were unlucky, even your life. Hundreds of people were fired or brought up in front of Senator Joseph McCarthy's House Un-American Activities Committee, accused of being red. Many of them were left-wing politicians, authors, intellectuals, and also some actors and screenwriters. Lawrence and Lee, the authors of Inherit the Wind, saw something in the Scopes trial that reminded them of what was going on in their own time. They saw the right to think freely was under attack, and wrote Inherit the Wind as an answer to this. There were several plays and movies that came out around the same time which did the same thing. To give an example from both sides, look at Arthur Miller's Communism as the Salem Witch Trials allegory in his play The Crucible. On the other side were movies like John Wayne's The Alamo, which saw a group of Texans banding together to stop outside aggressors from conquering their way of life, a metaphor depicting the threat of communism in America. Sometimes, plays, movies, and pop culture are not just what's on screen. They're messages. They're talking about what these events say regarding the time they're written. Think about this the next time you watch a movie or a TV show based on American history. Why did the writer and director choose this time period? Are they trying to say something about our time? Remember, as the famous late film critic Roger Ebert once said, a movie is not what it's about. It's how it is about it.